Go on.
Let's wrap it up with a few fan views we've had in, shall we?
Yep.
So EFC78JU said, thanks a lot, New Zealand and defending champions Australia. We have isolation and quarantine for a reason. Now the Rugby League World Cup is not taking place in 2022. We now have to call it Rugby League World Cup 2022. Well, we don't, because nothing else has been changed, does it?
There's precedent, that doesn't change.
And we will have to wait for Wales to play longer and rugby to come home for longer. Should have risked it and let the tournament go ahead, for God's sake.
And Neil Ormston says, a few weeks ago, I was fully backing a delay to 2022 despite the challenges presented, mainly as I thought it would help ticket sales. However, the manner in which this has been played out leaves a bitter taste. That the NRL clubs were able to force this to happen against the organisers' wishes is hugely damaging to the international game and shows the imbalance in the power of our sport that has long held it back. A sad day.
And
Very well
Alan
put.
Walker said, inevitable given the lack of backbone at the RFL. They should have kept the schedule, and if the Aussies and New Zealand miss out, well, life's tough. It's the World Cup. Just because Aussies and New Zealand always win it doesn't mean they own it. 2022 is not going to be as easy as many think. With the Qatar World Cup at the same time, will the NRL move its season to accommodate a different slot for the World Cup? So we'll see the same kowtowing from the RFL to the NRL.
Yeah. They're all fair points, and it does point to, as I said, it's all about power imbalance, and delaying it by a year doesn't change that power imbalance. So for me, the only way forward is an alternative way. And if they want to be part of it, they can be part of it. If they don't want to be part of it, they can go stagnate in their own pool, as I said.
Well, putting them aside, can I give you my idea to move forward with it this autumn? I think we need to get some international games played this autumn. So
I would agree.
Maybe at venues that aren't quite as big or as, pushing the envelope that way, but maybe venues on the fringes of the heartland or places that have teams in the lower divisions that you can maybe bring people in. So, I'd be looking at places like Rochdale or Bolton, Doncaster or Sheffield, that kind of size and position of venue, or Newcastle even, but not at St James's Park, play at the other Newcastle, Coventry, maybe, that sort of place. Get games on in those places. And the games I'd like to see England play Jamaica.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a sort of four-way between Wales, France, Ireland and Scotland, where they'll kind of get drawn against each other to play a sort of knockout where there's semis and then a final, probably a third place playoff to make sure everyone gets the games. Then the winner of that little mini tournament will play England. Maybe the loser in the final could play Jamaica as well, like someone else, Jamaica gets a second game, that sort of thing. And then finally select a side of the best performers from those other nations to play against England as a sort of wrap-up game to polish off that sort of international festival as I see it. A local international festival.
I appreciate your optimism. I would very much like to see some international rugby league happening in this country in the autumn. We have stadiums booked. We have time in people's diaries. We have a level of expectation, as you say, in places like Coventry and Newcastle and things like this, things that have kind of got games scheduled. If we could take international games there of some nature, I would be 100% behind that.
Shall we talk a little bit more about the here and now,
yes,
Alan, and talk about some news stories from around Super League of late?
Yes, so Leeds Rhinos will sign Great Britain international standoff Blake Austin from the Warrington Wolves on a one-year deal from next year. The 30-year-old has made 62 appearances for the Wire since his move to Super League from the NRL side Canberra Raiders in 2019. So Austin will join former Raiders teammate Aidan Caesar, who is, as we've already said, is moving from the Huddersfield to the Rhinos next year.
Yeah, and EFC78JU said, after all of this time of waiting on news on the future of BA6, I thought it said bag at first, but it doesn't. It has been decided that he will move on to Leeds Rhinos on a one-year contract. He'll be a decent player for them. Won't be seeing much creativity without Blake in the team. Best of luck at Emerald Headingley with your new club. Do not score against us, Primrose and Blue Men. Creates an interesting situation, doesn't it, at Leeds?
Well, I don't know. It feels like it's a signing based on other player movements, players that are due to leave, I would say. Because you'd have to say it's going to be Austin and Caesar, wouldn't you say, next year?
Yeah, it's not really looking to the future, is it?
No, it's
two 30-year-old Aussies coming in.
It doesn't. It wouldn't excite me if I was a Leeds fan. I mean, and that in of itself is a horrible thought, but yeah, it's not an inspiring signing in the sense of, same as I wasn't that. I think I said on the podcast, I wasn't that thrilled with the idea of Caesar either, because he's a bit in and out of form, and has been playing for a team who've been consistently worse than Leeds recently. So I don't know. 1 year deals for, I don't know, not very exciting from my point of view. We'll see whether he can make a difference.
Yeah, it's the 1 year aspect, I suppose. There's an element of having to prove himself to see if he can get one last decent payday. So maybe that might inspire things there, but will be interesting to see. The club that he's leaving, Warrington Wolves, has signed prop forward James Harrison from Featherstone Rovers on a 2-year deal from the 2022 season. The 24-year-old, how's he only 24? He looks well old. Has been a regular for Rovers, helping them to 13 wins from 14 in the Championship and also winning the 1895 Cup at Wembley last month. Harrison, whose father Carl played for Great Britain, has also played dual reg in Super League at Leeds, of course, in the crisis times of 2020.
Yes, so EFC 78JU says, delighted to welcome James Harrison next season to Darl Powell's Wire squad. Hopefully we create something with him in the team and he gets the tries and assists. Then he'll be some signing.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming in for his tries and assists, but he's not got a bad try record, I suppose. It sort of makes the conversation about whether Chris Hill is leaving, which EFC has slipped into his little rumour machine earlier on this year, more believable, doesn't it, as well? Seeing as they've signing a few players there in the pack at Warrington. But
yeah, I mean, I would always like, players from the Championship to get a shot, and he has been playing well for Fev, obviously
Oh yeah, he deserves it, yeah.
Yeah, so he deserves his shot in many ways. So yeah, we'll see. Well, 2 years is enough time to see what he's made of.
Yep, for sure.
So in more Wire news, Wire coach Steve Price has been fined £3,000, £2,000 of that suspended for 12 months, and will undertake a learning disability awareness in sport training session after being adjudged to have breached the game's operational rules. An independent tribunal found Price to have used unacceptable language during an interview with Sky Sports following his team's match against the Leigh Centurions on the 24th of June, contravening the game's respect policy and bringing the game into disrepute. While accepting that there was no malicious intent on Price's behalf, the tribunal found the term to be offensive, discriminatory and hurtful, and that it should have no place in sport or society. I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, it kind of was quietly came through that, wasn't it? I wonder if it tells you the profile of Warrington Wolves that it wasn't reported on the BBC website. But I think something had to be kind of done to wrap up that nasty incident out of what otherwise has been quite a progressive and inclusive club of late. So, yeah, fair enough.
It feels reasonable.
Leigh Centurions have signed back rower Sam Stone and prop Jay Whitbread from NRL side Gold Coast Titans. The pair, both 23, join with immediate effect, having been part of... Oh, look, people can come over here from there. Part of Justin Holbrook's squad at the Titans in 21. Stone, the son of former Huddersfield boss Rick Stone, has played 39 times in the NRL, scoring 5 tries for Newcastle and Gold Coast. Whitbread's played 30 games for the Titans following his 2018 debut. So, 2 players who barely get a look in the NRL are going to save the Leigh Centurions.
Also saving Leigh Centurions, they've signed Jack Logan from Batley Bulldogs with immediate effect, while St Helens hooker Josh Eaves and back row Matty Forster have joined on 1 week loans. So outside back Logan, 25, recently ended a loan at Boyhood Club Hull and joins the Centurions on a deal until the end of the year. Foster, 20, and the 23-year-old Eaves, the previous spells cut short by injury. All three are available for Sunday's game against Hull KR.
Yeah, I think they needed a hooker because Pete's has gone to Huddersfield, and then Matty Wildy got injured shortly after coming on at the weekend, so Eaves will fill that role, and I think Eaves needs to prove himself at Super League to find himself a deal at another club. And Logan gets another chance. I think that's good for him to get another chance in Super League. And you never know, with the rumours swirling around, Lee might get to be a Super League club next year, even though it's fucking ridiculous that a club can be so uncompetitive and get to stay in the division. But yeah, there you go. It's good opportunity for these guys to show what they can do. Leeds Centurions halfback Joe Mellor has extended his contract as well until the end of next season. The 30 years old, whose father Sean played for the Centurions, has made 8 appearances in Super League this season. I don't think that's the answer to making them win games in Super League, but yeah.
No, none of those things are going to change a darn thing about Lee this year. In sad news, but not entirely unexpected, Wigan Warriors winger Don Manfredi has retired with immediate effect on medical advice following a further consultation about his left knee. The 27-year-old suffered his latest injury in training and was planning to retire at the end of the season. That's now been brought forward, and he leaves the game with a record of 42 tries in 58 Super League appearances.
It's that last number that's always going to be the sad one, isn't it, for this guy? What could he have been if he hadn't have hurt that knee?
Well, I mean, the guy, he either A, has a body that can't stand up to Super League, or B, he's the most unlucky person that's played in Super League in the last kind of 20 years.
Well, it's not been a series of different injuries, is it? It's really one injury that's never recovered, in reality, when you break it down.
I just remember him getting crocked in, unlucky things like did he have an issue with his eye in a grand final and stuff like that? You're probably right about. To me, I just remember him always being on the sidelines, which having only played 58 games in how many years? That's unfortunate. If it is one recurring injury, that's obviously unfortunate, but. Yeah, it's obviously something that is not going to fix itself, is it? And it's not going to get any easier as he gets older.
Well, back in 2016, it was when he got that first injury in, I think, the August away at Cass, and he still made the dream team that year, even though he missed 2 months of the season, nearly. So that's the sort of form he was in at that time, and came back in 2018, scored those 2 tries in the grand final. I guess he was hoping to have 1 or 2 last games this year before retiring, but obviously for his greater well-being, he needs to get the knee sorted and not risk messing it up anymore, to make it any harder for him to sort of go through the rest of his life. Hopefully he will find some employment soon, and the knee operations that he'll need to have throughout the rest of his life will be there for him. But good luck to a player who we haven't got to see anywhere near as much as we would have hoped to from.
Indeed. Castleford have signed 3 players on short-term loan deals. The Tigers have brought in Jimmy Kindhorse from Hull KR on a 2-week loan deal.
The Kindhorse rides back into town.
He does. So we know Carston's going to be supporting. Dell Power side have also signed halfback Jake Sweeting and loose forward Louis McConnell on 1-week loan deals from Featherstone.
France international Michael Gudemond says he wants to win more trophies with Catalans after signing a new deal with the club. Gudemond has signed a new 2-year contract which will keep him at this French side until the end of 2023. The 25-year-old Avignon-born France international has made 49 appearances for the Dragons since